First of all, I'm thrilled to be here. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Julie Fine. I work for NBC5. We have a really great program set up for you today. And in the interest of time, what I want to do is make sure I introduce everybody to you so you can get your questions to your legislators. So I want to start with the forum host. We have several of them. Let's start with Kirsty Julia, president of the Dallas Area Gerontological Society. Take it away, Kirsty.
I will. Thank you, Julie, so much. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for having us today. DAGS is so excited to partner with the Senior Source and VNA to present today's forum. I'm Kirsty Julia, your DAGS president. For those that don't know, DAGS was established in 1989 and stands for Dallas Area Gerontological Society. DAGS is a nonprofit, voluntary member organization whose mission is to provide education on gerontological topics, provide scholarships to individuals pursuing a career in the aging field, and to advocate and promote improved services for senior adults. DAGS offers educational programs with continuing education credits, professional networking, public policy updates, and student scholarships. We have our monthly educational meetings the third Thursday of every month at 3 p.m. And then our big event is a yearly fall forum, which will be held this year on Thursday, October 21st. Membership is open to caregivers, healthcare professionals, older adults, senior service providers, senior housing representatives, and anyone interested in aging issues. For more information about DAGS, please visit our website at www.dags.org. That's www.dags.org. We would love to have you join today and get more involved. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Kirsty. Now I want to turn to Catherine Krause, President and CEO, Visiting Nurse Association.
How are you? How's your husband?
I think we might have a little bit of interference, so we'll work through that for a quick second. But again, I want to introduce you to Catherine Krause, President and CEO, Visiting Nurse Association of Texas. Catherine, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you. So the VNA is, I know many of you know, we've been around a long time. We were founded in 1934, and our mission is to help people age with dignity and independence in the home. And most of you know us perhaps through Meals on Wheels, where we deliver to 4,500 homebound seniors in Dallas County, but we also cover about 16 counties for the hospice and palliative care operations. And during the pandemic, we modified our services and care to meet even greater needs of the community for food insecurity and isolation. But as you know, also Meals on Wheels is more than a meal. Proving this last fall, our nurses administered flu shots. We've recently partnered with the Texas Emergency Management and the National Guard and local fire and rescue department to administer COVID-19 vaccines in the home. And so just as a highlight, and we'll talk about more about this in a minute, but the legislative priorities for us really revolve around funding for Meals on Wheels. We want to thank the legislators. They're on the call for making our most vulnerable citizens a priority this session. But to give you a little background, 60% of our funding for Meals on Wheels comes from private donations. I know many of you probably donated the Meals on Wheels, but 40% comes from federal and state funds. So from a state standpoint, you have titled funding, Title 3, 19, and 20, and that goes through Article 2 for the Texas state budget. But also we receive a significant amount of funding from the Texas Department of Agriculture for a fairly large grant, which is granted all over the state of Texas. But in Dallas, we receive almost $1 million of funding a year for caring for seniors. So, you know, with 10,000 people turning 65 every day, our request for legislators really is to continue fully funding those revenue streams, as well as even expanding it, because we always have a wait list. Right now, our wait list is about 400 people. So that to be considered. Also, there is a bill, a couple bills in the House and the Senate, which are listed on the legislative priorities. We ask that people look at those very seriously, because what these bills do really is a vendor bill that is supported to provide drop ship meals by for-profit providers. And I'm a big fan of for-profit. You know, my retirement counts on for-profit. So, but what this does is the for-profit companies can drop ship. They don't have the wraparound services from Meals on Wheels, the vaccine, those kind of things. They're not in our network. So what we ask the legislators to do really is not to support this bill, because I think it would dilute the Meals on Wheels services. But thank you for being today, and happy to answer questions when the time is right. Thank you.
Thank you very much for presenting that. And now we're going to turn to Stacy Malcolmson, President and CEO, The Senior Source. You can talk a little bit about your priorities as well.
Thank you, Julie, and good afternoon, everyone. I did just want to click back on instructions for Q&A. Please type your questions in the chat function, and you can type them to all panelists and attendees so everybody can see your question. Renee Perry and other staff will organize the questions and send to Julie, and then we will be using that chat also to generate ideas or conversations. So thank you for your time today, and really welcome everyone who's here. So the mission of the Senior Source is to improve the quality of life of older adults in Greater Dallas. The Senior Source champions older adults. We empower them to live with purpose, we protect them, and we advocate for and ensure the financial and emotional well-being of these older adults in our community. In 2019, we served 27,000 seniors in the Dallas area. We serve them through programs and services that are funded from 3 levels of government, such as our long-term care ombudsman program, which is a federally mandated program for the residents of nursing home and assisted living facilities to ensure their rights are being protected and their complaints are heard and reported. We offer volunteer programs that reduce social isolation and bring a sense of purpose to older adults who want to remain active and involved in our community. We provide case management, resources, and support for family caregivers who are tending to loved ones, whether a spouse, parent, or a sibling. And we improve the financial well-being of clients through our Elder Financial Safety Center. This center is a one-of-a-kind partnership between the Senior Source, the District Attorney's Office, and the probate courts to prevent, protect, and prosecute financial crimes against older adults. The Senior Source's role is prevention. We know that if older adults are financially secure, they are less likely to respond to a scammer's email or phone call. So we provide seniors with financial security ranging from utility bill assistance and basic needs to more complex support in terms of employment, frauds and scams protection, and long-term budgeting and money management. As you're all well aware, the pandemic has been devastating to older adults. It is exacerbating the issues that seniors already face: social isolation, financial insecurity, and vulnerability. The Senior Source has been working round the clock to address these issues and new ones such as technology access and training and vaccine education. We are so excited to see so many bills being proposed to protect the financial and emotional well-being of our seniors during this legislative session. Our priorities, along with those of DAGS for this session, focus on protecting the residents of nursing homes and assisted living facilities, elder financial abuse protection, and food security for older adults. So you can see on your screen just some of the bills that we are following and supporting. As it relates to protection for nursing home and assisted living facilities, there are bills designated ensuring that residents and family members are able to visit their loved one in the facility. There is a bill to expand criminal background checks for assisted living facilities to cover a prospective employee if they lived out of state to run that background check. There is a bill to protect residents from pay or misappropriation. So that means a long-term care facility resident will not be thrown out if the person paying their bills is negligent in doing so. And then there's a bill on infection control. As you can imagine, that's a very hot topic this year, and it includes infection control to fight against viruses such as COVID. For elder financial abuse protection, House Bill 1156 defines penalties for financial exploitation for older adults. House Bill 491 increases the statute of limitations for financial crimes against the elderly. And Senate Bill 109 defines fraud penalties for document execution without consent. This is relevant for those with dementia or Alzheimer's or cognitive impairment. Finally, the Senior Source is supporting a simplified SNAP application and longer eligibility periods so more seniors enroll in this program. And then we are following 3 other critical issues: Medicaid expansion, housing and tenant protections to include age as a protected class for discrimination, and broadband access expansion. So Julie, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I'm now going to, at the beginning, introduce all the legislators and staff of legislators that are here with us today. Then we're going to return to them. And I want to remind everybody, you have 4 minutes. So I don't want to be looking at the clock and not paying attention. So everybody do your best to stay at those 4 minutes as much as you can. First of all, we have Representative Michelle Beckley with us, District 65. Representative Ana Marie Ramos, District 102, Representative Carl Sherman, District 109, Representative John Turner, District 114. Sarah Barge is here for Julie Johnson, that's District 115. Nicholas Watt is here for Representative Morgan Meyer, that's District 108. And Zane Cawthorn for Representative Terry Meza, that's District 105. So all of you, we have a really nice group today. So thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to start with Representative Beckley. Representative, explain to me what is, and to this whole group, do you believe is the most important thing you can accomplish this session for seniors?
I really think the Medicaid expansion is going to be like the top priority that I have. I had it for pretty much just everybody in Texas, that we really need to take that Medicaid expansion to help with our healthcare of everybody in Texas. I do like the bills of the loved ones, and I'm following those bills that people need to be able to oversee. I do have senior parents. They're not living in any facilities right now, but they are at home. So I do understand you want to be able to visit your parents and see how they're doing and oversee. I'm definitely in that generation of that's kind of helping out. So I understand what's going on. And my district does have quite a few of the Alzheimer's and the elderly care facilities. So it is a concern of the residents of my district. So we're following with what they want.
And Representative, I know a bill actually passed in the Senate last week regarding being able to visit in long-term care homes. That passed in the Senate. And then now the House, as everybody knows, the House and the Senate both have to pass a bill, vote and come together on one, but it was unanimous in the Senate, which obviously is showing some support for that.
Yeah, so I think that was always a concern in the past is, seeing how your family's doing, seeing the care, making sure everything's okay. Went through it with my grandparents, so I kind of firsthand know what the struggles are. I understand the struggles of the pandemic as well, because we didn't know a lot what was going on, but I think we're setting criteria so we don't get that situation again, which I do agree with.
Representative Beckley, before I let you go, anything else that you really want to get across to this group of people watching today?
I just think that this pandemic has shown a lot of maybe issues that we have with our elderly care that we really need to address. I think a lot of the caregivers, they're working multiple facilities, and I think we need to address maybe at some point, maybe the session may not be it, but address that they get where they don't have to work in multiple facilities just to live. I think we need to address it, how much we're paying the caregivers at some point. That's going to be something we're going to have to address.
Thank you so much, Representative. And Representative Ramos, are you there with us? We'll get you on the screen.
Hi, Julie. This is Karen from Representative Ramos's office. She's still in a committee meeting. So if we could come back to her.
Absolutely. We'll come back to you. How's that?
Thank you.
Okay. Representative Sherman, are you there?
I am, Julie. Fine. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. It's good to see you.
It's good to see you too. I've worked with Representative Sherman for a long time. We've got some good stories together. Representative, and you and I have talked about issues relating to seniors. So what are you really trying to tackle this session?
Well, first, let me thank DAGS and the Senior Source, as well as the Visiting Nurses Association. It's important work that they're doing, advocating for seniors. And I would have to really just say, in looking at all of my legislation right now, my biggest focus is expanding Medicaid when it comes to health care for our seniors. Nearly 3,000 people died between ages 55 and around 64 years old from 2014 to 2017. And they didn't have to die. If we had Medicaid expansion, we are the most uninsured state in the union. And this is an issue we've got to address to ensure that our seniors also have better health care. This is also a fiscal concern as well. As a member of appropriations, I'll tell you that right now the federal dollars, and we get a combination of local, state, and federal dollars to support our healthcare system here in Texas, but about $61.81 comes from the federal level. And if we expand Medicaid, we're looking at about $90 from the federal level. So it just makes sense that we would do this. And now is the time, certainly during a pandemic when we really need to. Finally, I'd like to say, Julie, one of my bills addresses our seniors' children and their grandchildren. It is HB 420, which tackles the issue of maternity mortality rate among African-American women. Texas has a high maternity mortality rate in the state. And right now, the Texas Department of State Health Services is estimated at 182.3 cases per 10,000 live births. But the rate worsens when you're looking at mothers of color, and particularly Black women who have an estimated maternity rate of 299.4 cases per 10,000 birth rate. So the data is there that it supports we've got a problem, and we want to make sure that more seniors are able to enjoy seeing their grandchildren born into this world. And so this bill, HB 420, I hope we can get your support. We'll create a task force that looks at this issue.
Representative, we'll be back to you, and Representative Beckley, don't leave us. We'll be back to everybody during the Q&A. And now I'd like to bring in Representative John Turner.
Hello, Julie. How are you today?
I'm great, sir. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
It's always good to see you. Let's start right off the bat. Your priorities to help.
Yes, well, and again, I first want to thank you all for doing this panel and each of the three organizations who are involved, and great to be here with my colleagues. And just so everybody knows, it is true. People are in committee hearings, and some of the members that aren't able to be here yet are stuck in meetings. That's the way it goes in the session right now. So I know everybody appreciates your understanding there, but the scheduling can be tricky during the legislative session. But it's a pleasure to visit with you all about these important issues. What I will highlight for my part, as I look at my legislative agenda, I have been coordinating with a few other members, both in the House and the Senate, and I'm going to give some credit here to Senator Nathan Johnson and his office, who have helped to put together a little package of bills focused on safety in senior living communities and long-term care centers. And so several of us are involved in this. And of course, we're going to welcome involvement from many more of our colleagues and hope we can pass some bills. I'll mention what a few of them would do. One of the bills would basically require additional safety standards in senior living communities, additional background checks for people who are employed, minimum security standards for entrance and exit from these kinds of facilities. And hopefully the net effect would be additional peace of mind for seniors that are living in some of these communities. Second, I have a bill in particular that's kind of a part of this same package that imposes additional state oversight over metals dealer businesses. You may be saying, what does that have to do with anything? Well, in fact, seniors are often victims of burglaries for jewelry. And this has been a source of some of the high profile criminal activity that we've read about in the last couple of years around Dallas. And to be able to more stringently regulate and inspect the books and records of these entities to determine who is coming to them, how often are they visiting, will hopefully enable us to have a better chance of catching suspicious customers, suspicious activity at these kinds of businesses. And so that bill that I have filed is House Bill 3123, and there's a companion bill as well in the Senate. And the hope is that this will be an additional tool for law enforcement to make sure that we are catching people who might be out there preying on seniors, both living at home independently or in living communities or assisted living facilities. So those are a few examples, Julie, of some of the things that I'm going to be focusing on. I really hope this package of senior safety bills can move forward. It has bipartisan support. It was really an effort to make sure we had Democrats and Republicans in both the House and the Senate involved. So we'll see how it goes, but my hope is we can move some of those bills forward.
Representative, thanks so much. Don't leave us. And next, now we have Catherine Moore. And did I pronounce it right, Catherine? In for Representative Johnson. Catherine?
We are probably going to have to give her.
Let me go back.
If you can maybe care for someone else, we'll get her access panelist rights in just a minute, Julie.
Okay, sure, no problem. How about Nicholas Watt for Representative Meyer? Are you available, Nicholas?
I am, Julie. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks so much for doing this for us.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, I'm the Chief of Staff for Representative Morgan Meyer, House District 108. So just want to echo kind of what all the representatives before me spoke to. I think for our office specifically, Chairman Meyer is the chair of Ways and Means, which kind of deals with all the tax policy and revenues over in the House. And so one of the things we've been talking about, right, is to ensure funding for Meals on Wheels, ensure funding for all these programs that are great for seniors. So for us, we really want to make sure that the revenues coming in are stable, that we do have enough revenue, especially coming out of post-COVID, to fund a lot of these great programs. I guess for us, we have filed a bill, I think, that is a priority for us and for seniors, and it has to do with coerced debt. So we've talked a little bit about financial exploitation and what this bill does, and we carried a bill last session that passed and was signed by the governor, House Bill 2697, that kind of made it easier to prosecute those that are, maliciously using either their spouse or an older relative to incur debt in their names, for their own exploitation. So it made it easier to prosecute them. What this bill does, this session, HB 3529, it carries it over to the civil side of things so that hopefully after a prosecution, some of the debt that the senior citizen or somebody has incurred, they can recoup some of those funds. So again, appreciate everyone on the call and for having us.
Well, thank you very much. And now we're going to go to Zane Cawthorn. I apologize, for Representative Meza. Zane, are you available?
Actually, Zane is not on the call. It's Vince Leibowitz, Chief of Staff for Representative Meza. It's good to see you, Julie. Hope you're doing well. To give you a quick update on some of the bills that the representative is carrying that you all may find interesting. One in particular that the representative has that's recently been referred to the Human Services Committee is House Bill 2513. And many of the people that worked on SB 3 regarding access, the the Caregivers Act. This is another piece of that. This is a bill that would require the HHSC, when making any type of emergency rules, require at least a 48-hour comment period and notify those people that are interested in that particular type of rulemaking through their Gov delivery system by email. So people would actually know that they're about to promulgate emergency rules that could restrict their access to their loved ones and then give them the opportunity to comment. Representative Messa's House Bill 1019 will also be one that is of interest to you. It is currently pending in the Human Services Committee and awaiting a vote. That's a bill that would make it much easier for persons 60 and above who are receiving SNAP to continue to do so. Currently, if you are 60 and older, you must requalify as often as every month, even though SNAP does not have a work requirement for seniors over 60. And even though people over 60 are much less likely to have their income change over time. So the representative's bill would increase that to a 36-month eligibility timeline. And then she's got a number of other bills that would assist seniors as well as respond to the pandemic and the very terrible winter freeze that we recently had.
Well, thank you very much, Vince. Okay, we've got a couple to return to. Now we're going to go to Catherine, who is representing Representative Johnson. Catherine, you there?
I'm here. Hi, everyone. It's Catherine Maurer, by the way. Close, Maurer. I'm excited to be here today. I am a legislative aide with Representative Julie Johnson's office, and we are very excited to be here. As Representative Turner mentioned earlier, we have been working with Senator Nathan Johnson's office quite a bit in that package deal of bills that will be addressing some of the needs and safety concerns for seniors in permanent living facilities. After the 20 murders that occurred in the Dallas area independent living facilities a few years ago, we want to prioritize making sure that our facilities are going to be safe for all of our residents and our seniors, and make sure that they're providing the adequate care and preventative services to make sure that they are safe. So the big bill that we have been working on for that is HB 3095. And the goal of that bill is really that senior living facilities will be conducting criminal search records on all employees and staff members at the facilities and those who are contracted by the facility, to make sure that they will be aware of any type of past incidences and keep potentially dangerous individuals out of the living facilities. It will also require that senior living facilities allow residents to speak with police officers and other law enforcement members given any type of investigation occurs, or if an incident does happen, that it is reported to law enforcement. And so our goal is that these will help keep our senior living facilities a lot safer in the future and will prevent any type of tragic occurrence from happening again in the future. So.
Thank you so much. And we're glad we got you on. Now, I think we were looking for Representative Ramos. She was not there. I'm just double checking if she's back yet. And if not, I will start the Q&A and we can always return to her when she is ready.
Hi, Julie, Karen again here. Yeah, go ahead and start with the Q&A and I can send you a quick little message. If she comes.
Okay, perfect. Send us a message. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so here's how I think we should do this. I've got a lot of questions. If this legislator, if this falls in your area of expertise, feel free to jump in. If not, I'll start calling on people separately, but there may be a question that comes up that pertains to something specifically you're working on. So definitely pipe in if that is the case. Now I've got a bunch of questions in chat, so I'm gonna go up to the beginning of where I first received them. So bear with me for 1 second, because they keep coming, and then I'm gonna go right to the beginning. Okay, I wanna start with this. Let's see, I'm just getting down to there. This one, I think any of you can field. How can we make sure seniors are heard by local and state reps?
Well, I'm happy to take the first swing if you like.
Go right ahead, Representative Turner.
First of all, and I'll speak for my office, but I'm sure it's true for everyone else here. One of the things we are built for in terms of our staff and our team is to receive emails, to receive input, to take phone calls, to read your letters that come in. Now, I'm not going to say we don't get a lot, we do, but I know every one of our offices organized in such a way that we are trying to make sure that every one of those communications is read and heard. So, just simply sending an email. If you go to any of the office websites, they all have a way to say send email. And when you type in an email, we get it, and we go through each week and have an update on what correspondence we are receiving. And I'll just speak personally now for a moment. If it is clearly, sort of personally written correspondence, it definitely kind of comes to the top of our list to make sure that we read from our constituents. And we read everything, but there are some kinds of correspondence that come in as sort of a computer generated, or clearly we're getting 100 or 200 of the same kind of letter, and we see those too. But I just want to emphasize that at least in my office, we try to make it a point to specifically pull from the correspondence that we read, those that we know are just you sitting down to write your representative and saying what's on your mind. And so that makes a difference. And to call into our office to let us know about a concern you have, or even just to ask for a couple of minutes, whatever it may be, however long you need to express your concern, we will do our best to be available. Now the session gets very busy, and so sometimes we may end up having to ask one of our staff members to take a call, but in that case, it'll be recorded and conveyed on to us. So all those things they really work, and those are the basic ways. I know I'm not revealing any secrets here, but I just want to emphasize to everybody that we do pay attention to the concerns that you raise.
And you somewhat touched on this, so if somebody else wants to field this one, so many governmental agencies require older adults to go to the website to do anything. Now, Representative Turner, you just talked about the phone. However, many adults, according to this question, can't use a computer. Representative Beckley, what's the solution to that?
So I've always have a very open office. And so we take phone calls, and I'll meet with people over the phone or in person. If we need to meet in person, I have set times in my schedule. I'm lucky that I have a very small geographic size district. So it's easy for me. It's the farthest away is going to be a 20-minute drive if they're if they're living in the district. So for me, I will either go to their facilities, or we can just have a phone call. And if you live in the district, I'll listen to you no matter what whatever your problem is. It doesn't matter what your political issue is. We have a very open door policy. So email or calling. And some people, I've got a very centrally located office. I even have people just stop in.
Yeah.
And yeah. So, during the pandemic, we've done Zooms more, but a lot of people like just to use the phone, and I'm okay on the phone. So that's fine too.
Someone else wanted to pipe in. Was that Representative Sherman?
Yes, Julie, I'd like to say, along with Representative Turner and Representative Beckley, we do focus on our seniors as well. And it is important to offer multiple means of communicating with our seniors. We have a senior constituency service representative in the office. That's all he handles. Jewel Mansay, he is a senior himself, just recently retired. And Jewel, you can reach him at jewel.mansay. That's Jewel is JEWEL.mansay, MANZAY at house.texas, that's Texas is spelled out, .gov. And we do some really exciting things, just like Representative Turner and Beckley, in having forums just for seniors. So we will do Zoom town hall meetings too. And we even we've done luncheons. So we will send out lunch for the seniors and teach them how to order online. Because, as we get older, it's harder for us to adopt the new technology, right, and integrate it into our lives. But really, we don't want to be left behind. And if there's someone who has the patience to teach us how to incorporate this into our lifestyle, we're willing to do it. And our folks will go out with social distancing in mind and with masks, and they teach our seniors how to use the system, which, by the way, then they're able to order online when it's not a Carl Sherman luncheon town hall meeting where they can talk to me about issues that are germane to their concerns.
Next question. My question is regarding a senior on a fixed income. Can we push for criteria and benefit amounts to be increased? Anybody working on that? Anybody want to field the question? Is that possible?
Julie,
Yeah.
did my mother ask you to put that question in?
Yeah, she called me, Representative.
Well, you know, I certainly would like to. I think all of us would. But right now, with the challenges, budgetary challenges that we have right now due to the pandemic, due to oil prices dropping at one point during the early part of the fiscal year, we're challenged to balance the budget. And we are looking at certainly the relief that the federal funds will bring of the 1.9 trillion, the 350 billion that's coming to states, counties, and cities should help, but we won't know until, unfortunately, the end of March this month or early April, what the impact of those stimulus funds will be. So I know from my perspective, we just don't have the capacity at this point to consider all the needs that are out there.
So can I chime in real
Please
quick?
do.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we have to look at what, you know, a lot of what you're talking about is federal. And what we can do in the state is we can definitely look at our Texas Retired Teachers Fund and look at maybe in the future doing cost of living oversight on their retirement. And so I think we have to look at the retirement that as state legislators that we are in control of within our budget. And I think that that is definitely something that is in my forefront as we have the funds to do that, then that is something we can do. Now that's obviously going to help the teachers that are retired, but we have to look at what funds do we have that we can help with the seniors. Your Social Security is going to be coming from a federal level, and that's not something that I believe we have control of at the state level.
Realistically, here's the next question. This is interesting. What is the chance that Medicaid expansion will pass? Guys and gals, I should say, we talk about this every legislative session. I feel like this comes up. Do you think you'll see any bills, anything change this session?
Well, I mean, we have on the table, I think it's $5 or $6 billion that Texas is going to lose because of the new criteria that has now put into for expanding it. So we are going to lose a lot of money if Texas decides not to do it this session. So we have a better chance this session. Financially, I don't know how we can say no to it.
And if I could just chime in, I will say that's something that I think members on both sides of the aisle are taking very seriously. Our office filed HB 3871, which would create the Live Well Texas program, and that has received support from both sides of the aisle in the Texas House thus far with co-signers. And so I think that given the circumstances of the coronavirus and how that's affected people both in terms of healthcare and financially, I think that's something that there is definitely going to be some movement behind, if not some form of healthcare expansion is passed.
Anyone else want to add anything before I go on to the next one?
Well, I'll just say, Julie, you're right. It's an issue that has come up in many sessions now, several sessions. The way it was basically left last session, if you break it down, the Democrats all in the House all support this, and last session the Republicans did not. It was basically there weren't actually that many votes that were truly just a party line vote, but this one was when it last was brought up on the budget. However, this session began with some indications of some Republican members signaling that they were now ready to support Medicaid expansion in some form or fashion, and where it stands right now, I think is not perfectly clear, but the point is there has been some movement in that direction. It probably, if you're just assessing probabilities, it still, would be considered an achievement, certainly this session, if that's something that could be pulled off. And it's still, I think, an uphill battle, but the tide is turning a little bit, I feel like, as more and more people look at this issue and make the case, and even really make a what I would consider a conservative case for Medicaid expansion. And we'll see. I don't think we can rule out any possibilities, and those of us who favor it, certainly would be very happy to see that day come.
Question, could the cost of long-term care be reduced? Seniors who don't have long-term care insurance may lose all assets before they're eligible. Do you think this is as serious as financial exploitation? Anybody working on anything in that area that they can contribute here? Okay, so nothing on long-term care. I mean, do you think the cost could be reduced? Is there any way, I mean, is that a state issue? Is it a federal issue? I mean, could those costs be reduced?
Well, and I can't speak as a subject matter expert on it, and I certainly welcome any further comments. I think it is a challenge because on one hand, we need quality in long-term care for our seniors, and last session I was on the Appropriations Committee along with my colleague here, Representative Sherman. He's still on the Appropriations Committee and still doing the good work this session. And Representative Julie Johnson, represented here, she is also on the committee. And one of the things that I learned in that session is, there's a continual challenge because we probably don't pay enough with our state support for long-term care of all kinds, whether it's in senior living centers, state supported living centers, or community care, at-home care. And we made a little bit of progress last session in some additional state funding to increase salaries. But of course, that remains a real challenge. And I mean, my personal view is that we should do more as a state to try to make sure that we are supporting senior care of all kinds. And taking some of the burden off of seniors themselves, but also ensuring that we continue to commit to quality care environment. But these are the difficult choices that we have to make, and the balance is sometimes hard to achieve. But I appreciate where the question is coming from, and I think that's a very serious concern for seniors as they contemplate longer term care and see the cost that could be involved, and then from the state standpoint, when we are trying to assist as a state, the cost for the state. These are tough decisions, but I do believe we've got to maintain a strong commitment to our seniors at this time of life.
Okay, and here's a very technical question. What is the difference between House Bills 3095 and 3123? And by the way, if you don't know those off the top of your head, I can understand that, because in my newsroom all the time, someone will call me and say, what do you know about Bill 1404? So is there anything that you guys, you all can specifically discuss between 3095 and 3123?
Well, you just got lucky on those numbers, because 3123 is one of my bills. So I
wonderful
with that one. So yes, 3123 is the bill that I alluded to earlier. That is the one that deals with regulation of metals dealers and kind of cash for gold type businesses. And again, so it basically opens them up to a higher degree of regulation, supervision by the state, to make sure the state can go in and basically check on their activity and try to determine, how are they handling visitors? How are they screening visitors? Or do they have regular people that are coming in under, questionable circumstances? And also, can we do anything to connect any of some of the visitors to these businesses to any reports of criminal activity? Now, by the way, I want to be clear. I'm not trying to, speak badly of such businesses. They have a right to exist and do business. We're just trying to make sure that some of them aren't used in the wrong way and are used by the wrong people who may have been victimizing the elderly. The other bill, reference 3095, maybe I think it's Catherine and Representative Johnson's office could speak to it, because I think it's her bill. It is the one that she mentioned that would require additional background checks for employees and additional reports of criminal activity inside senior living centers. Catherine, do you want to speak further about that?
Of course. So the goal of that bill, which I listed the number for earlier, I'm blanking off the top of my head. One moment.
Is it 3123?
Yes, thank
Mine was
you.
31.
Good memory.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
This was
So
3095.
39, yes.
Okay.
So the goal of that bill is really to ensure that we avoid what happened in the 2016 year, where there was a widespread incident happening in the DFW area where someone was impersonating a employee at facilities and was then using their access and ability to the facilities to steal from the patients and then sadly take their lives. And so what we're trying to do is avoid that from happening again in the future by ensuring that all employees and contracted employees will have a background check done before starting to ensure that they do not have any type of criminal record or past history of criminal abuse that would put them at risk for potentially doing the same thing, and ensuring that the people who are caring for our seniors and who have access to our seniors when they're in their most vulnerable states are going to be safe and responsible individuals. And then the second part of that is if any type of incident occurs, that is mandatorily reported to the police so we can get on top of it rather than waiting until it's too late and other people have been attacked or abused.
Thank you. Okay, I'm moving down to the next question here. Looking into the future, when minimum wage will probably reach at least $15 an hour, what are the plans to help seniors afford their long-term health care? Is there any plans regarding the minimum wage, or is it more just health care in general?
Certainly, Julie, I think on the minimum wage issue, I think without a doubt, I think I could speak for all of us that we would like to see that happen, but certainly that's something on the federal level that we are waiting for the legislative body there to take action on it. Not sure how successful they may be right now, certainly with the Senate seeming to, obviously they were successful in taking it out of the relief fund or the relief bill, $1.9 billion or trillion dollars that I mentioned earlier. So I'm not really hopeful that $15 will be the mark. We're probably looking at representatives like mentioned that we're probably looking at something more in the area of $10 to $11 that's more palatable to the only centrist, I guess, congressman on the Democrat side in the House. But that certainly will affect our seniors' quality of life here. I'm not an economist, so I don't know how it might affect them. But I think that we are all anticipating that the minimum wage will be increased. But again, I don't see it going to $15 just as a realist. I'd like to see it go to $15. I think it should, but right now, to move to $10 to $11 is going to be progress, unfortunately.
What is being done by the state to ensure seniors have access to information and COVID vaccines? I know all of you are going to have something to say about that, so we'll start with you, Representative Beckley.
So, you know, I don't know what the state is doing. I know what my office did. My office made over, I think we last I checked, 7,000, 8,000 phone calls to the seniors in our district to, you know, that's part of our senior outreach program, especially with the pandemic and people being locked in their houses. Our office proactively started calling seniors and finding out if they knew how to get the vaccine, how to set them up. We helped some of them. What we found in our district is that the majority of English speaking seniors knew the information and had figured out how to do it. Because, you know, getting vaccinated is not simple. Like it's not as simple as you would think. You don't just sign up on one portal. You've got to be on multiple portals. You know, you've got to check with CVS, with Walgreens, with your county. And in our district, some people may check Collin County, Dallas County, and Denton County because you're just close enough to all of them. And so helping them get vaccinated, what we found is the majority of the 75 and older had been vaccinated, and that CVS had done a really good job of going into both the senior living and then the both the there's different levels of senior leveling, and they seem to have made progress in all of that. So actually going to those facilities and vaccinating at the facilities. And so that helped out quite a bit. That's what we found out in our district. I know other districts have other situations going on as far as that, but there wasn't a program set for the state. So we just decided to go and be proactive on our own and reach out directly to the seniors since we have that. I had those numbers. That makes sense.
And Julie, I will add to that also, and I appreciate Representative Beckley. I'd heard about her outreach to seniors. We also did some senior wellness calls over the course of the pandemic. And one thing I'll mention, that another bill that I have is a bill that would instruct our state health department to do a public relations ad campaign related to the vaccines, and to disseminate information, scientific evidence-based information about their safety and efficacy, and particularly try to target regions and communities that still don't have high rates of vaccination. And of course, I mean, we have a lot of, our entire state doesn't have a high rate of vaccination as of now, but we hope that as we go, we're going to get to the point at which those who, you know, are already seeking a vaccine have gotten one. But then at that point, really, we've got to make sure that those who are reluctant know the facts and are not led to confusion, and also know what to do. And so we can't, there's a tendency, I think, in our state, and it may be an understandable one, to kind of just rely on the tools that a lot of us are using every day, and that is, you know, digital tools and the internet and computers. We have to remember that not everyone is logged on all day. Not everyone has a smartphone, especially many of our seniors. We need to find people in other ways too. I think community-based, neighborhood-based registration drives, and there have been several of those that have been going on lately. Those can help. There have been some in my district recently. You know, we need to get good information up on TV. You know, some folks are watching their favorite television programs, and that's the way they're taking in information. We need to make sure we've got a strong, clear ad campaign that tells people, you know, what number to call and why they should call it. And so I hope that campaign does happen. And I also hope that we're finding new ways to reach people, and not just relying exclusively on, you know, kind of digital internet means of getting the word out.
And this is a very important matter, especially for people of color. This is a life and death issue. And so in our district, like Representative Beckley and Representative Turner, and I know Senator Johnson and Representative Julie Johnson, they've reached out. We've reached out and connected with a faith-based community in my district, and we have coordinated with home nursing agencies and advocated for them to be places of vaccination. And my staff has been incredible. I've got a former Air Force veteran, Irma Scholes, who has led that effort and gotten so many churches, because they trust their pastor to lead these efforts, churches in Dallas and the South suburban areas. And they've shown up at the places of vaccination. So it's extremely important that we use the tentacles of influence in our communities to ensure that people have proper information and are vaccinated.
Our office would, oh, sorry.
I was quite.
Oh, okay. I was going to agree with Representative Sherman that our office has really tried to do a lot of community outreach, or using social networks that individuals have. So like using churches or other faith-based services like Metro Crest services in our district, but also knowing that a lot of seniors get their information from their family members, and making sure that all of our communities are going to be informed, because a lot of the time when they're having those weekly phone calls or are trying to connect with each other, it's easy to trust your children or your siblings or other people who are connected. So our weekly newsletters that we send out have information on vaccinations every week, including things specifically for the senior community on what counties are doing at living facility outreach or other senior-based things, as well as information on different areas to sign up for vaccines, information on how safe the vaccines are, why they should be getting them, herd immunity. So that way they can connect through their social network. So if one person can get that information, then they can share it with their family members and their communities as well.
Frauds and scams seem to be getting worse. What can we do about these robocalls that seem to target seniors? Anybody working on legislation from that, getting calls about that from your constituents?
I'll jump in really quickly. Again, I'm Karen. I'm with Representative Ramos's office. And even though our legislation doesn't necessarily address these scam calls that a lot of us are getting, particularly in the senior community, we did file HB 3686, which would allow for investigations to continue even after an older citizen has passed away for 2 years. Oftentimes, we have found that whenever an elderly person is going through some sort of scam process or they're being taken advantage of, that ends the moment that they pass away. And these people or these organizations or groups that prey upon the elderly community get away scot-free just because there's nobody to follow up. And so this legislation would make sure that there's agencies following up on them and begin to like formulate the patterns for those people who are constantly jamming upon individuals.
Anyone else want to weigh in on that one? Okay, another question. My major concern is housing for seniors. Even though there are senior apartments, the rent is constantly going up from year to year. Can there be a cap-based payment for seniors that will keep them in a stable place? Is that even possible? Like, I know in some states there's like rent control and whatnot. Is that possible for seniors?
Well, and I am not, without doing a little bit of a refresher, I'm not familiar offhand with all of the regulations that pertain to programs that exist, Julie. But yes, senior reduced rent housing programs are available. I know, for instance, just this last month, there was an application for a below rent housing project that would receive federal tax credits in my district for seniors. And I wrote my letter as a state representative. I am to write a letter expressing the opinion of my community and my constituents about it. And this project was supported by the district, and I wrote in my support for it. So there will be if the Texas Department of Housing and Community Affairs approves the project, there will be a new senior affordable housing development intended for seniors at certain percentages of the average individual income in the Dallas-Fort Worth area in my district on Alpha Road. And so that's the kind of thing that I think is important. I mean, we need to make sure that there are going to be good housing, affordable housing options for seniors. And, we do have tax credit programs to incentivize developments that will provide affordable rental housing for seniors. And of course, there are other issues for seniors who are homeowners as well, who have been in homes for a long period of time that may have, risen significantly in value, or maybe in gentrifying neighborhoods where you have a concern about property taxes and the ability to keep on staying there in the neighborhood where you've lived much of your life in many cases. That's an important concern too. And, that's something we're fairly regularly, I would say, talking about. That issue comes up a lot in the legislature. And, we do allow seniors to enter into deferral programs regarding property taxes. We do have the property tax, freeze for above 65 in Texas. So there are various things that exist, but always open to looking at what more we can do.
And anybody else want to expound on that one? Okay, next question. Bills concerning safety and independent living facilities. Can anyone expound on the merits of SB 1133, Senator Nathan Johnson's, that would create a voluntary state certification for safe, independent living facilities? Anybody working on that in the House side? See lots of nodding,
Yes.
Representative Turner.
Right, right. Well, again, that one was on target for me because it's one of those bills that was in that package that I talked about earlier for senior safety and senior living centers. And so, yes, that bill, that particular one, Senate Bill 1133, it has I'm looking at notes here. Don't have this memorized. Can't expect that, but I am looking at the information I have here. The House bill that is the same bill as House Bill 3144 by Representative Jared Patterson. So that is a bill that would basically create a certification process for senior living centers. And if they're to get certified in the manner set out in the bill, they need to establish minimum security standards. They need to explain what kind of ID badges they have for visitors and meet certain specifications. I'd have to get out the bill to get more specific than that. But in essence, that's what the bill will do. And it's one of, I would say there are roughly 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, roughly 7 bills in this package that I was referring to. And that is one of those bills. And they all have the intention fundamentally of saying we have safety concerns for seniors in senior living communities. We're worried that there are, bad folks out there that intend to prey on seniors and to try to take advantage of lax security in these centers. And we need to step up and do something more about it as a state. And that is, I think that is one of the important bills in that package.
Catherine, did you want to add to that? I don't know if you were looking over. Anybody want to add on to that? Okay. Are there any efforts to allow payment to a family caregiver if they have to forego their job to take care of a family member? Anybody know of any efforts going for that type of situation?
Julie, I'd like to look into that because I know that Senator West, that is usually in his area, and I don't have any bill in front of me that gives me that insight, but I know that's typically in the area where he is always putting forth legislation on those issues. So I will follow up with you. My folks can present the information on the chat if we get it real time.
Kind of backing up to where we started here. Where do you, if you have to look, ahead to the end of session, which we know is always so unpredictable, but if you had to look ahead to the end of it, where do you think in terms of seniors, the most progress will be made?
Well, can I just use the chance, Julie, to mention something that we hadn't come up yet? It concerns everyone in the state, but really hit seniors hard. And that was this horrible winter disaster we had, where seniors were, probably bore more than their share of the burden when the power goes out and the water goes out. After we had that horrible week of loss of power and water, one of the things my office did is we kept on hearing there are places in the district that still don't have water. I mean, we're talking, 12 days, 14 days after this crisis started. And we did calls to seniors in the district just to find out, okay, do you have water? We want to make sure you've got it, especially those living in apartment complexes that we'd heard, many still were struggling with these issues. We certainly have to make sure, for the sake of our seniors, as well as everybody else in our state, that we address that problem. And, that's become one of the big headline issues of the session ever since we experienced this. And, when we get to the end of the session, if we haven't done something that really addresses that problem, then we have failed. I hope we'll pass some bills that are meaningful, that, will really set us on a course to making sure we do not repeat what happened to our power and water infrastructure, even if we have some severe weather, and we will, because we're in the era of climate change and we can reasonably expect weather to be more extreme. And so I hope that's one big thing that we address that I know is of concern to seniors as well as everyone in Texas. It's not specific to seniors, but it particularly, when you're talking about power and water, I feel like seniors are vulnerable there, and it's often not as easy for, seniors to get out and go, get huge buckets of water from their neighbors, or, to figure out a way to to keep their home warm. And that's when I thought about those that were suffering through that, I certainly often thought about seniors who were, probably feeling very vulnerable and sometimes desperate during that terrible week.
Can I,
Oh, I'm sorry. Is that you, Representative Beckley?
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I'm on the elections committee, and I really think that the seniors need to be paying attention to what's going on in this committee. Mail-in ballots are really being attacked, and different variations on how they are handled. And seniors 65 and older are definitely a big portion of that. And I really think they need to be paying attention as to what's going on. And, the Medicaid expansion, like we said, I mean, your voting matters, and who you're voting for matters, and how they vote matters. And while the mail-in ballot, we've heard over and over and over about this so-called fraud that didn't happen. And they're attacking the mail-in ballot, like turning it in on election day. And there's a lot of things, if it's not stamped the right date, and how much time it can take. We've just heard bill after bill after bill, which are going to affect mail-in ballots. And I think that, seniors need to be paying attention to that as well, because their method of voting is being talked about the most.
We also got another question about the power grid. Can we get some more information on the power grid, because it was so difficult for seniors? What will happen with that? Representative, whoever wants to go next. And go ahead. I see you, Representative Sherman. Did you want to field that?
Yes. Shortly after that man-made disaster, because we had many warnings before. And as Representative Turner mentioned earlier, that these weather conditions are only going to get more extreme. And this winter Arctic storm really just revealed how unprepared we were, and it was a lack of political will. The study that was done 10 years ago, which I read, it's over 200 pages, clearly outlines recommendations that we needed to implement. We did not. And because of that, 4.5 million people were without power. There was an elderly man in San Antonio, Texas, who was discovered in his bedroom dead, with temperatures that had dropped to 35 degrees in his home. It doesn't have to happen. We simply need to winterize our infrastructure for coal and natural gas and fossil fuel, which is what we use to heat our homes, and 75% of it. It's, I wish I could say it was the new energy that was powering our homes, but that's certainly not the majority of our power source. So I filed HB 3213 to address that, but to also address weatherizing the wells as well, no pun intended, because we've got to make sure that we are not caught without the proper weatherization of our infrastructure. It should be compulsory. There's nothing about this that should be recommendation. Because of this, the catastrophic cost financially is going to surpass, or has already surpassed, our last natural disaster. This was a man-made disaster. Make no mistake about it. Last thing I want to say, I used to have a diesel, my wife and I, Michelle, diesel Volvos we would have, just buying these diesel Volvos. Loved them because, you could drive on the highway and go, but diesels require that you have glow plugs, which similar functionality as spark plugs, but they warm up the fuel line. Before you start the engine, you have to turn the key so that it warms things up. that's essentially what we're lacking in our infrastructure, is to warm this up so that citizens will have the heat that they need. It's going to be a cost, yes, but it's cheaper than the cost that we're being impacted by now, because you not only have the cost of what's done damage to homes, but now you've got also the water lines. You've got many lift stations that were certainly impacted by this, and sewer lines as well. So we've got to prepare better. And HB 3213 is just one bill of several bills I know that have been filed by certainly the representatives that work here with me.
Let's talk about the progress of broadband expansion plan. Where is that right now? There's been a lot of talk about broadband access for students. It's also an issue for older adults. So where is that broadband expansion plan?
Well, I'm pleased.
Go ahead, Representative.
Well, I'm pleased to say that on the subcommittee, Article 1, we did approve of a rider that hopefully will go through, or we are certainly supporting a rider from Representative Ashby that provides the resources for broadband expansion in not only our rural areas, but certainly in our urban areas that are lacking as well.
We do have a question, and Representative Beckley brought this up. Is Representative Beckley, are you there? I don't see you, but that doesn't mean you're...
I'm here. Yeah.
Okay, what's being done to make sure, I'm going back up to it, voting rights, shouldn't we be making it easier for older adults to vote, not trying to restrict them? So what can be done to ensure seniors can vote?
Yeah, I mean, I do think that we should be making it easier for everybody to vote and not restricting some of the issues going on. I mean, people, I would reach out right now. The bill's going to be heard this week, so in the House, and so reach out to the offices of everybody on the elections committee for sure, and your own representatives as well, and see if we can't get amendments on there. Some of the bills that are coming through are going to be good, like tracking the mail-in ballots, which will be nice if we can track who's got it. But they're just making it harder on how to, it's already pretty difficult for the mail-in ballot. First, you got to get the application, you got to request the application, then you got to fill out the application, then you go ahead and you get your ballot. Where our military service, they can have theirs emailed, and there's not one case of fraud with email being done, but we're not doing that. So I think we just really have to follow up with the Secretary of State's and the AG's office on what's going on with voting rights, because there is an attack on voting rights this session. There shouldn't be. We should be paying attention to the grid and the pandemic and healthcare. And quite frankly, it's partisan. It's a partisan attack. It's just what it is.
Okay, next question. Let's see. I'm trying to, the statistics on older adults developing Alzheimer's or dementia, they're very depressing. What's being done specifically to protect older adults who don't have capacity to make decisions for themselves? Is there anything being done on the state level?
I am not familiar, without researching it more, of any new legislation being brought this session. That's something that, we could, if the questioner wants to follow up with us and contact us to ask us to check on that, I can do that. And I imagine others on the call, if your representative, if the question is represented by someone else, would do the same. I'm not aware of any new legislation on that front, but it doesn't mean it isn't out there, because there are, many thousand bills that have been filed.
And speaking
Julie,
of,
Julie, let me just step in just quickly. We were following a bill, Senate Bill 109, that's related to the criminal offense of fraudulently securing document execution without a person's express consent. So if someone does have limited mental capacity, dementia or Alzheimer's, there would be a criminal offense about trying to get a document signed or executed without their consent. And so sometimes that can be tricky. So that may answer what the question was, but that's what we have so far.
And back to the weather, is there a bill or work being done to require senior living facilities to have generators if something like this weather crisis happens again?
Well, that's interesting. I'm not aware of such a bill. That's an interesting idea. What I have taken some interest in is the idea of having our local utility have some reserve generation capacity, basically, kind of high-powered batteries that could be available to be deployed very quickly in these outage situations that might help for a time period at some of those types of critical locations. I'm interested personally in that idea. The way we have it in Texas right now, we have separated, electrical generation from the transmission piece, and we still have our sort of natural monopoly utilities. In our area, it's Oncor, that is the distribution and transmission utility. But the way our system is set up, you're not supposed to have those utilities be the ones that generate power. The power is generated by separate companies that aren't affiliated. But even though that is probably a sensible separation, it may be that we should consider some exceptions. If Oncor can quickly have in an emergency outage situation supply some temporary power, either through some kind of mobile generator or a mobile battery to critical facilities or critical areas for a period of time, I think that could be something that could be very helpful. They also are supposed to maintain lists of critical infrastructure that would include, for instance, hospitals, which is why, as everybody has heard, the hospitals didn't lose power. And if you happen to be on a feeder line that involves a hospital, maybe you did not lose power in this last crisis. But to my knowledge, I don't know that senior living facilities are necessarily on those lists. Maybe someone can correct me. But it's a good and important point. We ought to make sure that there is abundant backup available for power for places like senior living facilities.
So
Go ahead. I'm sorry, Representative Beckley.
yeah, no. So I'm in Denton County, so I represent. I'm on the Denton County calls. We tend to get on Denton and Dallas County calls, but in Denton County, I do believe our county judge is looking into maybe not regulation so much as like you get a gold star if you've got the generation, if you've got all of that. So they are looking at issues. There were several facilities, excuse me, not in my district, but in Denton County that did lose power, and then the generators weren't enough and they had to move some people to like schools and stuff. So they're very much aware of that situation. And so I think they're looking at it from a county level standpoint in Denton County, if that gives you any kind of information there.
Okay, this might be a good one to start to wind down with. Things seem so partisan right now. Is there a way forward in working together better? And do you find this, people often say, that leave the legislature, the Texas legislature actually does work hard to cross the aisle?
I don't find that's true, but, some of my other colleagues might have a different opinion. I think I'm not really sure. I think we have to look at our districting. We're going to be doing redistricting this year. Hopefully it's probably going to be a special session. And I think when you have these districts that are just so gerrymandered, this is what you end up with. It's the partisanship that we have now. I mean, unfortunately, that's the reality of it.
I think Representative Beckley sums that up very well about the gerrymandering and the impact that it has on this process. However, I am very, very encouraged. During the interim, I reached out to several Republican representatives and really began having a series of talks about potential legislation in the future. One representative in particular, Representative Matt Krause, and I have built a very strong relationship. Representative Krause represents Tarrant County, Arlington, that area. So we've been having lunch during the interim, and now we have both joined our two bills together. one in which I authored that deals with police reform. It's Bo's Law, named after Botham Jean, the young man who was killed by an off-duty police officer in Dallas in his own home eating ice cream. HB 929 is a bill now that has more Republican joint authors than Democrat at this point, intentionally, because we can agree that we don't want to see another George Floyd happen in this nation, and this is an area in which HB 929 helps. But reaching out to Republican legislators is very key for us to be successful. Not everything Democrats do is wrong, and not everything do is right, and not everything Republicans do is wrong. So if we're able to work together on some important legislative pieces that's going to benefit all Texans, I think it's important that we start with breaking bread together and just starting with the areas that we have in common, because all of us care about our families. All of us believe that there is a higher being. I just happen to believe it's Jesus Christ, but others have other beliefs. And if we're really confident in our beliefs, we don't have to force anybody to sing the national anthem, or just like God doesn't force us to pray or force us to sing. So this is something I think it's very critical that Republicans and Democrats work on things together. And I think that is a little different than some groups, especially on the federal level.
Anyone else want to add to that? If not, I'm going to ask everybody, since we're at the end, if they want to add some parting thoughts.
I miss John Turner on appropriations. we were two of the only two freshmen that were appointed last session. And brother, we miss you because you added so much pragmatic thought to and reasoning to the process of budgeting that we don't have because you're not there. I think that's my opinion. But I think we'll certainly get an opportunity to work together on the House floor.
I appreciate that. Thank you, Representative. And I'm glad you're still there to carry the torch in the appropriations process. And it was an interesting one to be a part of last time.
That it was. Well, I know that I'm grateful to DAGS. I'm grateful to the source, the senior source, and the Visiting Nurse Association for putting this together, giving us the opportunity to converse with you about issues that matter to you and to our constituents who are just like our parents in many ways. So thank you for caring enough to include us in this discussion.
Well, I want to thank all the representatives, everyone, all of the staffers from the representatives. I want to thank the Visiting Nurse Association, Senior Source, and DAGS for putting this on and letting me be a part of it. And I'm glad that you all were here. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, y'all.
Great job. Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thank you.
Julie.
Bye-bye.